Practice 14, and the Buffaloes are almost done with spring football. All we have left is the spring game, Adam, and I think it's much nicer today than at least what the forecast shows on Saturday. I'm a little bit nervous for Saturday. It'd be nice if the spring game was today because this is beautiful out here.
It is gorgeous. It really is. And it's almost a situation where you'd almost pick last year's spring game weather with the snow over cold rain, right. And so fingers crossed. Maybe I called Mother Nature out on a previous analysis video, and she didn't like that, so I'm just going to keep my mouth shut now.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what we see weather-wise, but on the field, it is a spring game, and we always, we say this every year, like it's going to be a little vanilla, right? Yep. And we did talk to Pat Shurmur today, and he kind of went into more detail about the vanilla, right? And talked about, hey, he goes, I have no life, so I've been sitting here watching everybody else's spring games, so I know they're going to be watching ours, and so we're going to show a lot of stuff from last year, maybe a couple wrinkles for the fans, and so those that are expecting to see this brand new Pat Shurmur offense, you're probably not going to see a whole lot of that.
No, and we actually remember when Mike Sanford said the same thing when he was at Minnesota, that he was pouring through CU spring game footage and trying to pick up any little thing. So it's good that Pat Shurmur is aware of that, right? And that he did make the comment that he's not going to give anybody else a glimpse into what they're planning to do this year. So it's going to be a lot of stuff that they did last year. We continue to hear through him and guys on offense that the pace, the tempo is different now, whereas they vary the tempo. Last year, obviously, under Sean Lewis, it was trying to go fast all the time. So that part of it, maybe you'll see some of that kind of the new aspect of this offense, or maybe not. Maybe they just fully, completely avoid showing anything.
Well, and part of it is numbers too, right? And who's available. I mean, we know through the guys going in the transfer portal, there's only 3 running backs on the roster this week. And Pat Shurmur said that, I think it was Tuesday, there was only 1 healthy running back available to him that day. And so we're going to see who's actually available at running back. That's not the only spot. I mean, they can't go 3 deep on offensive line, and there's only 9 or 10 healthy bodies on the offensive line. You're a little thin at some spots, and so that limits you too.
Yeah, no question. I hope Charlie Offerdahl's healthy on Saturday because this could be a big game for him. Yeah. I would almost if he's healthy on Saturday, set the over-under at 1.5 touchdowns from Charlie because, he's going to get featured out there if he is indeed in there. It's tough, and hopefully next year spring ball concludes and then the transfer window begins, and you don't have to go through this again, because last year it was defensive linemen that were leaving, and this year, running back is a position that's pretty thin. Even receiver, a lot of the guys are expecting to be big-time players at that position, haven't got here yet. Offensive line, they're really rebuilding this roster, but you're going to get a chance to see quite a few new guys. We've heard a lot of great things about what Preston Hodge and DJ McKinney have done. Do we get to see Travis Hunter play some nickelback on Saturday? Right. Obviously, on the other side of the ball, all eyes are going to be on Jordan Seaton to see how he does in his first big stage moment here at the University of Colorado. So a lot of intriguing storylines to watch on Saturday.
I think fans are probably going to be excited to see LeJounte Wester as well, because he's a guy that has been talked about a lot. I mean, he obviously put up big numbers last year at FAU, and has been talked about a lot. And Jimmy Horn Jr., we talked to him today, and started this spring not healthy. He was trying to get back from an injury. Ends this spring healthy as of right now, and saying how he thought last year was okay. He's trying to build on that and have a better year this year. He looks a little bit stronger. He looks good right now.
Yeah, and he came into spring ball with a hamstring injury, but after spring break, he was able to benefit from that extra time rehabbing the injury. I think when they signed LeJounte Wester, a lot of people were going, okay, where's my depth chart prediction? And now, okay, what happens with Jimmy Horn Jr.? Well, we heard Pat Shurmur say today they're going to be in 10 personnel a lot. Yeah. Jimmy Horn Jr., LeJounte Wester are going to be out on the football field together quite a bit, I would imagine, this year. And so with Travis Hunter and Will Shepard, you've really got a good group there at receiver. And it might end up in – I'm hesitant to say this because sometimes the receivers have not lived up to our spring expectations when the season kicks off, but I feel pretty confident based on the resume that those guys come into that should be one of the best receiving groups in the country.
Yeah, and we didn't even mention Omarion Miller, Terrell Timmons, Cordell Russell, who's coming in. So there's some guys here that are pretty talented. The other thing we learned, and we've seen it, but they really Pat Shurmur really talked about Ryan Staub seems to have that firm hold on the number 2 quarterback spot. Even Shermer went as far as to say there's only 2 guys that have that headset. It's going to be Shedeur and Ryan, and so it really does seem like he separated himself from that group as that number 2, and he came in as number 2. I mean, that's what he was last year, but it sounds like he's had a pretty good spring.
He gets the ball out quick. He's a good athlete. It was his height. He's on the shorter end for a quarterback that probably kept him from being more heavily recruited coming out of high school. But yeah, there's some great stories on this team. We talked about Charlie Offerdahl. Ryan Staub could have easily bailed and not come here or transfer this offseason because of the transfers they did bring in at quarterback, but he stuck around. We heard Hank Zielinskis, another guy that Shermer was praising for the fact that this is somebody that could easily have gotten discouraged, but he didn't say a word and just went to work. And he said that if the season started tomorrow, he'd be their starting center. So, you want to see some continuity around here, and at least some of those guys are providing that.
I thought Shermer had one of my favorite lines of the spring, too, because he mentioned how Zielinskis comes from a family of centers. He goes, I think those guys play catch between their legs. And that was kind of a funny line. But, like, his dad, his brother, his younger brother all play center as well. And so, Hank, all he does is put his head down and work. And, he's been that guy, a really good true freshman year for an offensive lineman. You don't see that a whole lot. But we're going to see it again this year with Jordan Seaton as well. So lots of things to look forward to. Anything else before we get out of here?
Well, I see why Coach Prime and Shedeur Sanders really like Pat Shermer.
Yeah.
That was a great media scrum. He's got a very dry sense of humor that was great, and so I get that, and I'm anxious to see how this looks, but tempered expectations for Saturday. One thing to mention is that this is going to be a huge recruiting weekend for Colorado with both high school prospects on campus as well as transfer visitors, and there are 3 guys, Alex Scram, Corbin Lazier, and Montrez Walker, that are going to be announcing this weekend, and I like where CU stands in all 3 of their recruitments, so it's going to be a big recruiting weekend as well for the Buffs.
One last question for you. They have a ton of spots to fill on the roster. I think it's 15, 16 spots. Do you expect us to see a lot of these transfer commits like right away, or do you think it's going to throughout the month of May?
I think you'll see each weekend that they host guys, because their hit rate on guys that they bring out is a pretty good percentage. Like last weekend, they had 6 transfers in, 3 have already committed, and there might be another 1 or 2 from that group. So I think it will take some time if they're even going to get up to 85. They didn't last year. And Coach Prime doesn't seem like the type that just take a guy to fill up scholarships. Like, I think he wants guys that factor in somewhere, even if that's just special teams. So I don't even know if they get up to 85, but I'd imagine that will happen slowly with another surge after this weekend and then kind of trickling in. But it sounds like those guys are going to be on campus at the end of May. So that's when you're going to really start to be able to break down this new roster that they have.
So many phases of the college football season now that is year-round. The spring game ends kind of one little phase, but then you got the transfer phase and all that stuff. So there's a lot to get to. We're going to have a lot to talk about over the next several months as well, and we'll be back after the spring game on Saturday.